What's going on, everyone? Chris back again with episode 17 this time of What Could Have Been in Wrestling. We're getting close to episode 20, and every 10 episodes, I should say, feels like a mini milestone. And I honestly didn't know how people would take to this when I first started the series. But based off the feedback I've gotten, and based off the comments that I receive, people seem to like my thoughts on a lot of these topics and have given me a lot of things to talk about. So this series is definitely going to continue. So today's topic, what we're getting into is a suggestion that was given to me by one of my subscribers, and thank you to Thomas Moeller 1425 for the suggestion. And that is, what if Triple H hadn't been moved back to Raw after getting drafted to Smackdown in 2004? So taking it back, 20 years ago now. So as a quick recap, that draft lottery happened shortly after WrestleMania 20, where Chris Benoit became the World Heavyweight Champion on Raw, and Eddie Guerrero had retained the WWE title by defeating Kurt Angle at WrestleMania. So he was champion for that brand. Also important to point out, SmackDown's top heel, Brock Lesnar, had left the WWE after that, looking back, humorous match with Bill Goldberg at WrestleMania 20. Excuse me. To pursue football and everything like that, and then of course going to UFC. But it basically left a huge spot to fill as the top heel because they had lost the guy they had really built the whole brand around. So in all honesty, moving Triple H over to SmackDown did make a lot of sense at that point because there needed to be someone to take over that mantle, and Triple H easily could have been that guy. Obviously, they didn't keep him on SmackDown. The very next week, you found out that he was traded back to Raw, where SmackDown got Booker T, Rob Van Dam, and I think somebody else. And, of course, Triple H continued his feud with Benoit and Shawn Michaels. However, in this situation, I definitely think you could have had Triple H stay on SmackDown, and I think it would have led to definitely some interesting feuds, and definitely an overall better show than what we had gotten. So, going back, like I said, when Triple H was picked, and then Paul Heyman announces him as the newest member of SmackDown, Triple H spits out his water, and everyone's happy to see him go. I was happy because I know I've made some comments clear on what I thought about Triple H during that time, and I wasn't watching SmackDown as often week to week as I was Raw. I would really just watch maybe for a couple moments just to get the key some of the key segments with Lesnar, made sure I saw those, and then really didn't watch anything beyond that, maybe a little bit of John Cena stuff as he was coming up. But that night on Raw, Triple H and Eddie Guerrero actually main evented for the WWE title. It was an all SmackDown main event on Raw, and it was a good match. I just rewatched it actually, and they were given a good amount of time, and they really worked well together. And, of course, it ends with his Evolution stablemates, Batista, Flair, and Orton, still on Raw. And they interfere, and then eventually, John Cena and Rey Mysterio come out to represent SmackDown and help Guerrero. The locker room empties. And, of course, there's a big brawl outside. And what I liked is actually they kept Triple H and Eddie Guerrero for a bit in the ring going one-on-one while everyone brawled around them. And then Stone Cold waved out everyone, and the show ended with just basically what they were trying to basically make the big SmackDown versus Raw confrontation. So like I said, after that, Triple H was traded back to Raw, so we never really saw what could continue from it. But I think if you kept him on SmackDown, you definitely obviously could have gone right into and continued a feud between him and Eddie Guerrero, playing off that title match from Raw. The very next week on SmackDown, when Kurt Angle announced himself as the new general manager after Paul Heyman quit after getting drafted over to Raw, he then said that Triple H wanted, again, a WWE title rematch. He told him no and traded him back to Raw. So in this situation, you could have Angle come out still as the commissioner, because I know he was battling more neck issues at the time, so they had that on-screen role for him. Triple H can come out, and then he can still say, hey, look, I deserve a rematch. We all knew I had Guerrero beat, and I should be the WWE champion right now if it wasn't for interference. Angle can actually come out, and then he can actually still say, you can still move a couple other guys over to SmackDown and say, look, there was a supplemental draft after Raw went off the air, and Raw also brought in Booker T and also Rob Van Dam. And what you can tell, actually, you can have Angle still hinting tension with Triple H because they had their feud that went for years, and they never really saw eye to eye over anything. You could have Angle tell Triple H, hey, look, while you may be entitled to a rematch, you're not going to get it tonight, because tonight I've signed a match between the newest SmackDown star, Booker T, versus Eddie Guerrero for the WWE Championship. Booker T can still come out, establish himself as a heel. He can reference his past feud with Triple H, but still talk about how he didn't really want to come to SmackDown and how SmackDown compared to Raw was the minor leagues. Which, to be honest, the way it was positioned, it definitely was. It's always been positioned, until the Roman Reigns stuff, the past couple of years, it's always been positioned as the secondary show. Let's just tell it like it is. So during that main event, you can have, obviously it's going to be Eddie Guerrero versus Booker T. And as the match progresses, Triple H can run in and immediately attack Eddie Guerrero, leading to the match being thrown out, but also with Triple H staking his claim as the number one contender. The following week, you can have Eddie Guerrero come out and confront Kurt Angle and tell him he wants Triple H at Judgment Day, which is the next pay-per-view for SmackDown. So Judgment Day 2004, he wants him for the WWE title. Angle can tell Eddie, look, I don't think you're in the right frame of mind, but if this is what you want so badly, I'm going to grant it to you. And you can have the main event of that match of Judgment Day be Eddie Guerrero versus Triple H. During that match, you can actually still have, and this is why I still want, even though obviously Evolution was still going on at the time, and you keep Triple H on SmackDown, I think it could be a little bit of a divide and conquer. So basically, you still have Ric Flair or in Batista still on Raw. I know without their, quote-unquote leader, but they'd still have Ric Flair to act as a mouthpiece for them and be a mentor as he was for guys coming up in the Four Horsemen. And you can get comments from them on Raw talking about how they're going to be paying a visit to Judgment Day, to Judgment Day in support of Triple H and they'll watch him win the WWE Championship. So with that in mind, you can have a spot where Triple H and Guerrero are both down, but there's a chair get brought into the ring by one of the members of Evolution. Eddie Guerrero can actually get the chair and see that the ref's down. And then he can wipe out Triple H and then wipe out the rest of Evolution. But in a reverse of fortune for him, while he's wiping them out, he nails Triple H again. And the ref can actually see it this time, and Guerrero gets disqualified. So much like he did with JBL, Guerrero can actually still remain the WWE champion for the time being, but Triple H can come out on SmackDown and claim he's entitled to his rematch because he didn't lose to Guerrero. Guerrero was cheating, the Mr. Lying, cheating, and stealing. He cheated to try to retain his title, and Triple H can position it to Angle. He got himself purposely disqualified. So from there, you can have a stipulation match because now that a chair had been involved and Evolution had been involved, you can have it where Triple H takes on Eddie Guerrero now the following month, as we get now into the summer, the early summer of 2004, and you can have him take on Guerrero, much like JBL did, in a Texas bull rope type strap match, where the object is to touch all four corners to win. In reality, JBL did beat Guerrero for the WWE title at that Great American Bash that year, where they had both touched three corners, and then Guerrero made a launch for the fourth corner when JBL in the way. But the way it ended was JBL, the back of his head, hit his corner first while Guerrero made that leap, and then JBL was the winner. So I think you can have a very similar, and well, not an identical ending, but you can still have Evolution interfere because now there's no rules. And really, while they're jockeying for, touching the corners to win the title, or Guerrero to retain his title, Evolution can come out, and obviously they can help Triple H win that match, hitting the final corner, and you have a new WWE champion in Triple H on SmackDown. So from there, the very next night on Raw, Triple H can actually come out with his Evolution running mates, his buddies, and obviously they're celebrating Triple H now being the top guy on SmackDown, while Evolution is still a thing on Raw. The reason I want to do that is because I still want to hint at Triple H eventually moving back over to Raw, because we all know this wouldn't be the move to SmackDown wouldn't be permanent. From there, Triple H can still lay claim and remind Benoit, I still want my World Heavyweight title back. And from there, Triple H can hint and say, look, we're going to have it's not going to happen, but he can tell him, there's going to come a time, it's you and me again, Benoit, title for title, and it's going to be you and me, and I'm going to win back my world title and be the top guy on both brands. Because remember, we're in the reign of terror era for Triple H, so that would definitely incite some heat. So moving forward, Triple H can then say, I beat you, Guerrero, fair and square, and they can actually move on from that for a bit, and Guerrero can slide down a little bit, just temporarily, out of the title picture. And through that summer, obviously, Triple H can be the main guy on SmackDown, and now we have a top heel who now, with previous credibility, has replaced Lesnar as the guy on SmackDown. From there, we obviously need to move into the summer and into SummerSlam. For SummerSlam, Triple H can come out, obviously gloating about his title win on SmackDown, cutting promos, talking about how no one there is worthy of challenging for his title. He can mention how he's beaten Booker T and Rob Van Dam in the past on Raw, so they don't get a shot. And there's no one who's obviously deserving of challenging him for his belt. Cue the Undertaker coming out, who also returned at WrestleMania 20, back into the Dead Man character. And you can have him come out and confront Triple H. Triple H then, like a heel should, can run away, scared to face The Undertaker at SummerSlam. And Kurt Angle, even though he was a heel GM, like I said, he was in the wheelchair at the time, but he can still tell Triple H, since they never have had a good relationship, that look, you're facing The Undertaker at SummerSlam. So building up to this, you can obviously have Triple H still cutting promos, saying that he's beaten him in beaten The Undertaker in the past, and also you can have The Undertaker saying that it's going to be his, I think at the time it would have been his 5th reign as the WWE Champion, and he was going to take that belt from him and beat him like he did at King of the Ring 2 years ago, when Undertaker was the defending champion at that time. So, honestly, I think a few changes are going to happen. While Triple H obviously can try to avoid The Undertaker for a bit, and avoid, like, obviously there wouldn't be as much physical confrontation, especially with Triple H not having as much backup without Evolution. I do think there is one guy that can help him. And that guy that can help him in this feud against The Undertaker is a guy by the name of Mark Jindrak. Now, going back, talking about Evolution for a second, you had Batista, Orton, and Flair joining forces with Triple H. It was revealed by Triple H that when they started doing promos together as a group to introduce the group, instead of Batista, Mark Jindrak was actually originally supposed to be a member, and he was supposed to be in that enforcer role. Apparently, Triple H wanted Batista over him, and he basically said, I don't want Jindrak in the group, so that's why it didn't work out for him, unfortunately. But you can still give Jindrak a chance to shine here as a top heel, helping out Triple H, and being in that enforcer role. So a lot of the beatings that Triple H would take leading up to it, you can have him fed to Jindrak. So Jindrak is the one taking the choke slam and the tombstones, etc. to lead up to it. But what can happen there is Teddy Long then obviously became general manager of SmackDown in that late summer. Kurt Angle was back in action, and Vince McMahon had fired him on air and attacked him with a crutch. And I know that Angle had his rematch with Guerrero at that SummerSlam and tapped him out with the ankle lock, if I'm not mistaken. So, obviously now you have the babyface GM and Teddy Long, reminding Triple H, you are going to defend the WWE title, and if anyone from Raw interferes, you're going to be stripped of your WWE Championship. But Triple H can still retain the title, excuse me, again, with interference from Jindrak. And obviously he gets, not a clean victory, but he gets his victory back over The Undertaker and retains his title. Like I said, referencing that King of the Ring match they had from 2 years ago. So from there, I actually think now we move into the fall. We can have Guerrero and Angle, obviously, wanting to get into the title picture, with both of them, obviously, top guys on SmackDown, and Angle back in action in the ring week to week. So from there, you can actually have, in my opinion, you can have Angle versus Guerrero on a SmackDown for the number 1 contendership. And the way that would work is you can have Angle defeat Eddie Guerrero again and be the number 1 contender going into No Mercy of 2004. At No Mercy, that was a SmackDown exclusive pay-per-view. You could have Angle and Triple H facing off. And the big thing there, in my opinion, is it's a heel versus heel match. I know that's what I'm trying to get at. It's a heel versus heel main event. But they did the very same thing at the Royal Rumble in 2001 when Angle faced Triple H for the WWE title. It was two heels going at it, but they still had a great match. And while I know they always were at odds on screen, I remember those two, not surprisingly, because of the quality of the wrestlers that they both are, Triple H and Kurt Angle, they always had very good matches. And much like and obviously, much like the previous Triple H title defenses, I think this time with help from Jindrak, Triple H can retain his WWE title. This time again, you can then have Guerrero saying he's still entitled to his. After that, you can have Eddie Guerrero coming out on the next Smackdown saying that he's entitled to his rematch that he never got after losing to Triple H at the Great American Bash. And reminding Triple H, look, you wouldn't have beaten me if it wasn't for Evolution. So, from there, Kurt Angle can still come out, lay claim to being the #1 contender, saying, look, I should get my rematch because if it wasn't for Jindrak, I obviously would be the WWE champion right now. So leading up into that Survivor Series, you can have a triple threat match. So then it would be Eddie Guerrero versus Kurt Angle versus Triple H for the WWE Championship. And the way it would work, obviously, is I still think, considering this is now a dual brand pay-per-view, because Raw and SmackDown are both on Survivor Series, with some help from Jindrak, but then also from his Evolution stablemates. And again, without Triple H on Raw, you don't know if Orton still turns face and turns on Evolution, because you don't know if they turn on him, even if he does win the title from Chris Benoit at SummerSlam. Maybe Orton now becomes one of the lead faces of Evolution as the world champion, so now they can boast both titles. So you can still have them help Triple H. Triple H has the sledgehammer. He takes out Angle and Eddie with it. And he retains the WWE Championship. So, now we're obviously getting into the end of the year, and we're getting into 2005. So, I think the next pay-per-view, in that December was, again, a SmackDown exclusive one. It's Armageddon. And going into that, Triple H wouldn't have a ton of challengers because now he's taken out both Angle and he's taken out both Angle and he's taken out Guerrero in that triple threat match. Triple H can come out and obviously gloat still about being the champion, but this time he's crediting his Evolution teammates for helping obviously get him the win, and obviously putting over his guys, the Batistas, the Ortons, and Flairs, for being the dominant force on Raw, while he is the dominant force on SmackDown. Really overlooking the contributions of a Mark Jindrak. This can lead to Jindrak turning face, telling Triple H, you're only still the champion, not because of them, but because of me, helping you against The Undertaker, helping you against Angle, and then helping you at Survivor Series. So that can lead to Jindrak challenging Triple H for the title at Armageddon. Now, I know Jindrak was never positioned as a high-level guy, especially after being ousted from Evolution in favor of Batista. So I know it doesn't sound like it's the most credible challenger, but you still have to have Jindrak break away from Triple H here in this situation. And look, I think we all know Armageddon is one of their, I guess you can call it, B-list shows that they had as a pay-per-view. You never had anything really huge happen at those shows for a reason. You didn't have big title changes for a reason because it was a B-list show. And you obviously, so I don't think there's any harm in Jindrak main eventing against Triple H. Triple H still beats Mark Jindrak, retains the WWE title, and Jindrak can still lay claim possibly to a rematch, because Triple H can still win it, obviously in an underhanded fashion. Maybe he gets help from a Randy Orton or someone like that. Obviously, because I'm still doing some crossover, because Evolution is still on Raw, or having Ric Flair assist them, so you can still lead into the Royal Rumble. Going into the Royal Rumble, you can still have you can still obviously have Mark Jindrak still chasing Triple H for that title. Now, I wanted to obviously stop here because I know that really, not stop here, I'm sorry, but I wanted to mention here that Randy Orton in reality was the one who challenged Triple H at the Royal Rumble in 2005. And I think everyone pretty much could tell he was just kind of a place filler because they had been hinting for a while at a Batista face turn, and I think people could tell he was the guy they were building. Obviously, in that situation, that doesn't happen. But, so even if Batista stays a heel on Raw, you can still obviously have other guys on SmackDown now on the babyface side being built up. And that night at the Royal Rumble, while Batista did win it, the runner-up was a young John Cena, who, before the Backlash, was rising rapidly in popularity. He had won the U.S. title in 2004 against the Big Show at WrestleMania, had lost it and then regained it, and I think he was still U.S. champion in early 2005. So, after Triple H beats Mark Jindrak at the Royal Rumble, you can still have the same finish, if you'd like, of John Cena being the last eliminated by Batista, and Batista winning the 2005 Royal Rumble. But John Cena can still come out as the U.S. champion, give Batista some credit, so it can kind of hint at a future face turn for Batista because John Cena's giving him credit. And he can also make a reference and tell Batista, hey, you proved you're good enough to win the world title on your own if needed, and you don't need those guys in Evolution holding you down. Cue Triple H coming out still as WWE champion, John Cena, United States champion, and Triple H can come out and just tell Cena, look, he can say, kind of like what they did in their 2006 build-up, say, look, I don't need a guy who likes to pump up his Reebok sneakers telling me or anyone that's under my wing what they should and shouldn't be doing. And he can tell them, look, you can stay down here in the mid-card as the secondary champion, but you're never going to be on my level. Now, I don't want them to brawl or anything like that, because maybe Triple H can stay on the ramp, and John Cena can obviously get a comeback on him, and tell him, when the time is right, I'm going to be a dual champion when I take that WWE title from you. No physical confrontation, but I just want them to hint at their feud. Because now going into, it was No Way Out now in 2005, another SmackDown show. John Cena, and I'm going to focus this now on John Cena for a second. John Cena defeated Kurt Angle to become the number one contender for the WWE Championship. The Big Show, I know, lost to JBL in that barbed wire steel cage match with that creative ending, where JBL got chokeslammed through the ring and then crawled out underneath the ring to win the match. And you can have Triple H take on the Big Show in the main event at No Way Out, because as we're still now making our way towards WrestleMania, and you can obviously have Triple H going over with a pedigree to retain the WWE title. So now, after hinting at it right after the Royal Rumble, now we have the main event for Mania. And it's a year early. So it's not at WrestleMania 22 now in 2006. We have Triple H versus John Cena for the WWE title at WrestleMania 21 in 2005 on that WrestleMania Goes Hollywood segment theme that they did. So with that, obviously with Triple H coming out, you can still have him have his big Motorhead entrance. That live entrance of Motorhead played his song live, and Triple H came up on the stage. And obviously, John Cena can come out with the red carpet and come out as the challenger. And you can have a similar match to what they had at WrestleMania 22. And he wasn't doing the STFU submission yet, so he's not going to tap out Triple H. But he is going to hit the FU on him. And he will pin, John Cena that is, will pin Triple H to win the WWE Championship. Now that obviously changes a lot. That changes quite a few things. Because one, there's no rise for Batista here in 2005. And as you can tell, there's no rise for JBL. And I want to talk about that really quickly. JBL was a guy, I've said it before, I know I've said it here on this channel. JBL to me was always a guy who got pushed because it was right place, right time. It was not because he was looked at where there was a big rally cry for him to get a push and there wasn't a big swell of underground support, where he was perceived as a star in the people's eyes. Say what you want to about John Cena, but even when he had the big backlash, and even when I went through the phase where I didn't like him because I thought his character was corny, and he was being overly pushed and exposed, he was still always a star in the people's eyes. JBL, even when he became the WWE champion, I never bought into his title reign. I wasn't watching Smackdown much at all at that point because I had no interest in it. And I had to go back and rewatch a lot of Smackdowns I never watched from 2004. I did that for you guys. But he was never a star. To me, he was never a star in the people's eyes. He was never legitimized as a main event guy. And even if he wants to go and do the JBL gimmick and transform into that over being one of the APA because Ron Simmons is retiring and they did their split on a SmackDown, I still think even in that role he would have been much better suited and he belonged more in a mid-card role. You want him to feud with Cena for the U.S. title in 2004? That's fine. And have him be U.S. champion for a bit? That's fine. I just never looked, in my eyes, he was never a guy who should have been in the WWE title picture. They just needed to slot someone in there because Brock was gone. And JBL, like I said, was the beneficiary of circumstance and nothing more. And like I said, also it doesn't let Batista have his rise to being a main eventer. And that's why I think after that WrestleMania, after losing the WWE title to Cena, when they do another draft, I know they did it a little bit later in that summer, but I think you move Triple H back to Raw. You can do the draft earlier, maybe right after Mania again this time. And Triple H maybe should never get his rematch with John Cena. You can actually save that for the future so it gives people still wanting more, and it kind of gives you a to-be-continued feeling. And you move Triple H back over to Raw, where he can continue his pursuit now of the world title. And again, while Batista's push gets delayed, that's what you can start focusing on over there. So that's where I want to keep it. I just want where I'm going to stop it. I just wanted to cover what I thought would have been a year-run SmackDown from 2004 to 2005 for Triple H. And that's actually how I think it would have gone, with him becoming the WWE champion, being in that JBL role as the top guy, but this time a more legitimate top guy, keeping SmackDown, in my opinion, much more interesting. Yes, look at me. I'm saying positive things about Triple H, because yes, it's not all negative things I'm going to say about the guy. It's just I was not a fan of his reign of terror, but I did make him champion for quite a while in this scenario. And again, it still puts Cena over strong and gives him, to that time, the biggest victory of his career, beating Triple H cleanly at WrestleMania. So again, everyone, thank you very much for all the comments, and obviously, let me know down below in the comments what you think, how you think it would have gone for Triple H, if you think if you agree with the Mark Jindrak addition or not, if you agree with his opponents for each show, and how you think that would have ran for him. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe on the video. It helps the algorithm. And also, like I said, please let me know what you want me to talk about in the future, and I'm happy to address each topic. I'm going to try to get this up. I'm recording this on a Sunday. Next weekend, I know, is Hell in a Cell. So I'm going to try to get this up before Hell in a Cell drops, because I know most people are going to be preoccupied watching that. So I'm going to be working on the editing for that. And again, let me know what you think of this setup and background and lighting as compared to how I used to do it. If you want me to go back to the old way, let me know. And there's a glare right now, so I know it's very bright. But I appreciate everyone's support, and I'll be back again with more topics. And the next one I'm going to discuss that I thought of a little bit myself and already had started formulating opinions on, but then got further reinforcement by another subscriber on a topic he wants me to talk about. I'll be talking about what if Eddie Guerrero didn't die in 2005. So more on that, actually. I'm not going to go too deep into that now, but to the subscriber who recommended it and definitely wants me to do it, thank you. I'll be referencing you next video, and be on the lookout for that as well. Take care, guys.